Welcome to Life in Business, the podcast for business owners who want the confidence to grow without having to hustle 24/7. I'm Libby Langley, your host, award-winning no BS business coach and Amazon best-selling author. Join me each week to learn simple and practical strategies for growing your business, growing your profits, growing your confidence, and for having fun in business too. Here's this week's episode. Hello, welcome to another episode of Life in Business with me, Libby Langley, your host for the next, 27 minutes or so, I guess. And today I want to talk to you about service versus sales. Ooh, this one's going to get the juices flowing, I promise you that. The thing about being in business, right, is we want to make money. Okay, there we are. There we've said it. Obviously, we want to change the world and we want to help people and we want to make a difference and we want to build a legacy and we want everyone to think we're amazing and we want to be top of our game and all of this. But ultimately, we are in business because we want to make money. And the reason we want to make money is because we don't want to have jobs. So there's a conscious choice about being in business as a way of making income, right? There, we've said that. But that in itself, is a bit meh, isn't it? Just making money is what kind of investments and the stock market and all that shizzle exist for, I think, really. Because there's no interaction, there's no nothing there, yeah? But when you're in business, like I am in business, and I think probably like you were in business, when you're a service-based business, there's a big word there that's really, really important. It's service-based businesses rather than sales-based businesses. And so when we focus too much on sales, we kind of lose the ethos, the essence, the feeling of, like what the point of the business is. And it becomes kind of a bit, ugly, maybe, dare I say. And just focusing on sales might be flipping heck. I mean, you might make a ton of money, right? You might make a ton of money. But what happens to those customers and to those clients? And I have had some amazing experiences of service in my lifetime. And I've had some shocking experiences of service in my lifetime. And I'm going to kind of go through them a little bit for you to help you, kind of help see where you are. And I think kind of one of the important differentiations here is your price point, right? If you're selling a £27 download thing and you sell by volume, then your service level is obviously going to be different than if you're selling a £27,000 intensity one-to-one program, right? The expectation is different. So let's assume that we're going for something that's a bit of a chunkier bit of money, I don't know, even just £200 up, right? But certainly £500, certainly £1,000, certainly £1,500, and certainly 20 grand. Okay, we're not talking the quick download self-study stuff here. We're talking about service-based businesses where you have interaction with people. And I know because that's the majority of the people who listen to this podcast, the majority of people in my audience, I'm service-based, you're service-based, right? Okay, good. We've set the ground rules there. And what happens is when you focus on sales, then the service can fall by the wayside. And what's really rubbish about that, right, is when people buy into you because they like you, because they trust you, because they think you can help them, or they know you can help them because they want to be part of your world. And then when they're in, they kind of feel a bit disgruntled. And that's it's horrible. It's horrible for you. It's horrible for them. And, obviously they're disappointed. Your leave rate will go up. Your refund rate will go up. And people won't recommend you. So actually you will end up becoming, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because you'll end up becoming even more sales focused because you're not making the sales, because or it's harder to make the sales because you're not getting the natural traction. Because the absolute like joy of being in your business is that if you do things right and people are happy, that's not to say about guaranteeing results, right? Because that's different. It's very hard to guarantee specific results for people because everybody's coming from a different standpoint, particularly in the coaching world, yeah? But people will always get some sort of result and some sort of transformation, but it's very personal, okay? So I'm not talking about kind of promising specific results, I'll get you to 10K months. And it's like, well, no, all right, if you're starting on 9, but if you're starting from nothing and you're a brand new business, that's kind of harder. It's a different promise, right? So kind of be careful. No, not be careful. That's not right. Think about what you are promising people and make sure that that is something that you can deliver with the level of service that comes in with that. So let me give you a few examples. If you're promising calls, a couple of calls a week, deliver your couple of calls a week. It's as simple as that. And I know that sounds really obvious, but sometimes that doesn't kind of necessarily happen. Or if you're promising a particular transformation, a particular journey, not necessarily a particular result, but a particular transformation or journey, it's slightly different. Make sure that you map out what that is and you explain what that is and you explain how much hand-holding there will be on that journey or not. Yeah. So set the expectation for people when they join your program or sign up to work with you. That's the biggest kind of downfall, I think, really, is that when you're so focused on sales, you can promise the flipping earth, right? You can be as shiny and as fabulous and as engaging and as enticing as anything in the entire world. But if that doesn't follow through, once people have given you their money and maybe made the choice to spend money on you rather than, having an extra holiday or something, I mean, sometimes these are kind of big financial commitments that people make. You've got to respect that and you've got to honor that and you've got to deliver the service that they need and that they would expect from that. Because if people are spending particularly a lot of money with you, I don't know what point it gets to, but would it be about $5,000? I guess when people start to think, hang on a minute, this isn't quite what I thought. I mean, I think, 500,000, certainly. It's but it's not oh my God, I've gambled my mortgage on this. Yeah. So there's a tipping point. And I'm not quite, I guess for all of us, it's a slightly different point, but you certainly you're unlikely to feel as disgruntled if you spend £500 on something as if you spend £5,000 on something, right? So there is kind of a balance. But if you're focusing so much on the sales and you forget about the fact that there are actual people buying into your service, then you're in a whole horrible situation, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time in trying to sort things out. And if people have signed up to work with you and they feel as if they're kind of actually shaping what's going on without you being honest and saying, look, do you know what, guys, your feedback were really helpful to make this the thing that it needs to be. Yeah. And if you're making people feel like they're wrong or something doesn't sit right with them, it's their fault, right? There's something in them. I watched a documentary on I watched a documentary on Netflix yesterday, and it was about people. What was it called? It was called Escaping Twin Flames, right? And it was about people who joined a kind of self-help group in order to help them find their twin flame, their one true love in life, right? As a premise, it's the kind of stuff we see all the time. We want something. We think that somebody can help us get it, so we sign up. I mean, that's standard across the board for so many things. But what was happening as people were in this program for longer was that the program obviously wasn't delivering what it was supposed to be delivering, right? But everybody was just made to feel that it was because they were broken and they weren't being fixed. And that's a very extreme example, but it happens a lot, I think. And there are certain types of programs that very much focus on the shiny sale, rush to the back of the room now if you want to, if you don't want your life to be a disaster. We all kind of know those types of things, and they're heavily sales focused. And so you want to be in it, right? You want to be in it and you want to be part of it. But then when you're in, it's not always quite what was anticipated. And so by focusing on service first, your sales are going to be a lot easier and you're going to get a lot more of them. Oh, let me tell you for why. Because the service is what gets the results, right? The sale itself doesn't mean anything. The sale itself is just fine, gets the money in your bank, but it doesn't give any transformation. It doesn't make any difference. It just means people have got less money because they've given it to you. But the service, if you look at the service right from the second somebody has handed over some money, if they've handed over a chunk of money and they've done it online, then you can automate, do they get a welcome video? Do they see a welcome video to diminish any kind of buyer's remorse there and think, yeah, do you know what? This person's got my back. Do they get an email welcome sequence saying, hi, this is what to expect. This is what's going to happen. Do they get kind of that level of service? Do they get walked through what's going to happen? Do they know that they're safe, and they're in a safe space and that they genuinely are supported on whatever transformation they've signed up to hopefully get, right? To grow their business or to whatever it is that they want to do. And that's what kind of makes the difference, really, right? And it's a really good example of this is restaurants, right? I love fine dining, right? We eat in quite a lot of Michelin-starred restaurants, and generally speaking, they're quite expensive. So they're an investment in order to be able to do it. And if you have a tasting menu, then you're there for quite a long time as well. So, an investment of time and money and traveling to wherever you want to go and all of this. And all of this makes a difference, right? But you go into it knowing that there's going to be not only fantastic food and different foods, but also this incredible experience. And there was one time we went to Sketch in London, which is 3 Michelin stars, so the absolute creme de la creme there. And some things that I just couldn't kind of get over. It was just so fantastic, so funny, but so fantastic because talk about like over service, but it was great. And they had these enormous double doors from to the entrance to the restaurant. It was upstairs, and I don't know how tall, like 10 foot, 12 foot tall. I don't know, these enormous doors. And when you went to the loo, you had to go back out of these doors onto kind of a landing space. And someone would open the doors for you, these double doors, which was just hilarious. And when you came back from the loo, they opened the doors again, this flourish of these big double doors, and would say, welcome back, madam. Welcome back, sir. And it's like, I've only been for a wee. It was so funny. It was so ludicrously over the top that, it was just great. It was just a fantastic experience. And I mean, if you go to a nice restaurant and you go to, I don't spend my entire time going to the loo at these places, but your serviette is like always put on your folded back up and kind of put by your plate and stuff. And that's just a different level of service. Like your water's always topped up without having you having to ask for it, and little things that make a huge difference. And that's part of what you pay for, right? Part of it is the food, but part of it is the service and the experience. And it makes it just fantastic because you know that there's nothing to worry about, and you know that there's nothing to think about, and you know that you're in safe hands, and you know that you can ask as many questions as you like because the staff are there to look after you. And it's great, right? And my feeling is it's absolutely worth paying for. It's personal choice, right? But then if you go to, I don't know, like a Beefeater, or do they even still exist? I don't know, but yeah, you don't get the same level of service. You don't get the same level of the same quality of food and all of this. I mean, the staff can be perfectly nice and perfectly helpful, but it's different. It's a different experience, right? And of course, so there's a completely different price point. And then in your business, if your level of service, if people are paying for the Michelin star level of service, but they're getting the the Beefeater level of, no offense to Beefeaters, I'm sure they're lovely places if that chain even still exists. But, you know, if they get in that, there's a disconnect, right? And if you have sold people in on the premise that you are Michelin star level and they are not getting that when they're in, there's a total disconnect. And people won't be happy. And you'll maybe find it, I mean, maybe you won't care, right? Because you've got their money. I don't know. I hope you don't feel like that, but maybe. But it's very stressful for you because you will spend a lot of time on customer service issues, on talking to people who aren't happy, on perhaps giving refunds and stuff like that you don't want to do in your business, right? You want people to come in. We all want people to come in and to be really happy and to know that they are safe. They're in a safe space because there's a lot of trust that exists, that has to exist in the world in order for us to be able to part with our money. So, you know, don't kind of don't like skimp on that bit, because it just isn't very nice. And I would say that if you're finding sales hard, right, if you're focusing on sales but you're finding sales hard, if you're not a kind of master showman, you know, who can just sell anything because people are so wowed by your performance. And a lot of us are not that, right? I'm not that. You might not be that. So we have to go about it in a different way. And so if you ever are finding sales hard, then it's probably because there's a disconnect there between what you're selling and the way that you're kind of selling it, if that makes sense. And so you need to go back to basics in your business and think about what actually matters to you, right? And this, in my Confidence to Grow group program, this is exactly what we start with, right? And it's going completely back to basics in your business, but that's because we lose sight of that, right? I've been in business for 13 years this year, and I still need to go back to basics because we get lost in the day-to-day and we get lost in we need more sales, you know, that kind of focus, and we forget what really matters to us. So the basics, the foundations are all about you, are about what your vision is, what you want from life, what your mission is in business, and how you're going to change the world in your own little way through your business, and what your focus is absolutely going to be, what your mission is in life, right? If we lose sight of those things, then we become this kind of just like sales machine, you know, just we need more people, we need more people, we need more people. And it's like the why has just completely disappeared from that. And the service has probably disappeared from that because you're so focused on getting the numbers in and getting the money in that you perhaps don't have the resource or energy then to actually like do the thing that they've paid for. And I see this so often with people. We get so kind of, oh, I need to make more sales. And yeah, you do need to make more sales. Of course you need to make more sales because that's the point of being a business. But focusing on that is just all to cock, right? It's just the wrong way around. So if you focus on what really matters to you, and part of that, your ethos around service will come out of doing that exercise, right? When I work with my clients in my Confidence to Grow program, that is the thing that we kind of look at, and really it formulates the rest of the business. And unless your business is 100% tickety-boo, there's something that needs tweaking somewhere, right? There always is. And there's always something to refocus on and something to refine and something to do more of and something to do less of, right? So by knowing what service level you want to deliver, that all impacts kind of what service you offer, right? And what your price point is really, really importantly. So you might find that by doing that exercise, you know, come join my Confidence to Grow program and we can work through that exercise together. If you want any information about it, then you can go to my website, libbylangley.com, or just message me. But that's how you can work with me on this on a much deeper level. And by kind of pulling out that what the kind of service level that you want to offer actually is one touch point a week, not 100 touch points a week. 5 clients at once rather than 500 clients at once. They pay you a little bit more. So you're high ticket, mid to high ticket rather than low ticket and volume. When you do that exercise and you kind of think, oh yeah, that's how I want to work with people. No, I don't want to be available 24/7. I want to be available for that 1 hour of that 1 week, and that's it. That shapes your whole business, and that allows you to go absolutely all in on the service in the time that you want to give it. It makes such a huge difference. So then when you're coming to your sales aren't being either focused on solely because you want the cash, come on, buy from me, or you're not blocking your sales because what you're selling isn't actually aligned to how you want your business to look, right? There's two things, two sides of it. And when I launched this group program, recently, really recently, the beginning of the second quarter of 2024, it was because something wasn't right with my sales v service ratio, I suppose. And I knew what really matters to me, right, is impact. It's making impact with people, is changing people's lives in the way that they need their lives changing, but always with a business focus. Always, okay? I'm a business coach, right? So helping people with their businesses is what I do. But it has such a knock-on effect with life. And I knew that by just continuing with my one-to-one work, I don't have the energy to provide the service that needs for lots of people. I just don't. Physically in my diary, sure, can fit people in, but I find that very exhausting. And to me, that can, maybe has done, but can certainly build a sort of level of resentment, I guess, and make it hard for me to get more one-to-one clients in because I don't have the headspace, I don't have the energy, and I don't have the capacity for the service level that I want to deliver as part of that, right? Disconnect. And so by combining kind of all the things that really matter to me, which is impact, integrity, high service level, on-hand support, hand-holding, accessibility, and change, right? Change and development. That's the stuff that really, really matters to me. And the only way I can deliver that in a really fantastic, scalable way, but small scalable, I have no desire to work with 300 people at once, thanks, is by bringing everything that I've ever done with my one-to-one clients into a group program, my group program, Confidence to Grow. And I can manage my time and my kind of energy to service by, there's 2 calls a week. So there's a coaching and teaching call, there's a Q&A call, right? So everybody gets direct interactive access to me. And there's also a support group as well. So I find that for me, I can deliver service till the cows come home and support within it's a WhatsApp group, within that, because it fits with my energy levels. Being on Zoom and having the appointments in the diary, I can only manage, and I know I can only manage a certain number of those per week. But if it's a faceless, as in I don't have to be on a camera, service through WhatsApp or a Facebook group or something like that, I can do loads of that, right? Because I can be doing something else. I can be in bed and I can be doing that. So it fits with the level of service that I want to deliver to my clients. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win. I know I can deliver it. I know I can deliver it to more than one person at once. I know that a small group is a really nurturing space for people. I know that the results are amplified by the fact that there are other people around. That I know all of that. And I know all of that because I've been in business for nearly 13 years, right? And so that's the kind of service side. And the sales side, I know that it's much easier to just be able to keep talking about that and talking about the results of that and talking about why we have to go back to the beginning all the time. And that's kind of my sales message. I can't do, or I can't be bothered to do, or I don't want to do like the big shiny, high energy, get to first one to the back of the room, is the one whose life is worth living, or whatever the message is. I can't do that. And I don't want to do that. I'm never going to do that. And so my focus has to be service first, and then the sales will come, rather than sales first and hope that nobody notices the service isn't that great. Right? I couldn't do that. I couldn't live with myself for that. I care too much, right? I take things too personally, and maybe that's to do with my neurodiversity. I don't know. But yeah, that stuff really, really matters to me. So where are you? Right? Where do you sit on this scale? And do you find that you are focusing more on the sales than the service? Are they equally balanced? Or is it completely out of kilter there? And it's all about how much money comes in and, well, we'll worry about the rest of it later. And if that is you, it's really, really difficult, right? Because, we're all pretty good at winging it because we're entrepreneurs. So there's always an element of winging it in everything that we do. However, winging it when people have trusted several £1,000s to you to help them make a difference and have a transformation in their business and their life ain't good, right? It's not good. And you need a bit more integrity in your life than that. It just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. You're going to get found out. You're going to get terrible reviews. And that's not nice. And I don't want that for anybody that I work with or anybody listens to this podcast. I don't care if you never work with me ever, ever, ever. I don't want that. I don't want that for you. I want you to feel like a happy, conscious, service-led business that makes a difference in the world. And that brings you the wealth that you hope for. And the two are absolutely compatible and absolutely possible. You've just got to have your foundations in place to know that the way that you're going in business is the way that you absolutely, truly believe in. And that's what's going to bring you the money, not just sell all the time. We're not wearing stripy jackets working in the bullpen on Wall Street. Yeah, we're not doing that. That's not sustainable. And we don't want to develop a drug habit or whatever from Wolf of Wall Street. I base everything that all my cultural references are based on things that I've watched on Netflix, right? So, which is fine because we like cultural and relevant references like that. So yeah. Okay. So service first. Message me and tell me where your disconnects are. I'd love to hear that, or where you think you've got it right. Because there's going to be a balance, but I think there's probably going to be something that's a little bit out of kilter too. So let me know and we'll work through it together. Oh, thank you for joining me again today. It's always a pleasure to have time in your ears like this. And I'll see you next week for another episode of Life in Business. Ta-ra! Bye! Thank you for listening to Life in Business. Please make sure that you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review as it helps others to find the podcast and spread the word that there's an easier way to do business. If you want to chat with me about today's episode or suggest a topic for the future, I would love to hear from you. You can find me on Instagram @Libby Langley. See you next week.